Imagine this. It's the World Cup finals, Argentina versus France, Messi versus Mbappe. It's 1-1 in the 88th minute. Messi lines up for a free kick. He takes a few steps back, stops. Then he grabs the back of his left hamstring and winces in pain. Millions of people around the world collectively hold their breath. Messi waves to the sidelines. It's what everyone fears the most. Lionel Messi is injured at the World Cup. At the same moment, there's someone else watching from an office in London who isn't thinking about the game at all.
This is not good. Oh no, look at this. Little Messi is down. That's not a sight you want to see for any footballer.
He is just doing the math. That hamstring just cost his firm millions of dollars. So the question is, when the best player in the world gets hurt at the World Cup, who is actually paying? I'm Amrish Singh. This is Everything is Insurance. If a player at the World Cup gets injured, it makes sense that his country shouldn't pay, right? If Messi gets hurt playing for Argentina, they should logically cover all of his costs. So here's what actually happens. Messi's employer isn't Argentina. It's actually his club, Inter Miami. Employment contracts means one thing above everything else. The player gets their salary no matter what. Hurt or not, that salary has to be paid. FIFA's rules also require clubs to release players for international games. This is not a request, it's a requirement. If Argentina calls up Messi for the World Cup, Inter Miami doesn't get to say no. They have to hand him over. And they have to keep paying him. Clubs are just hoping their star players don't get hurt while they're out playing for their country. Isn't that crazy? In 2023, the Saudi Arabian soccer club Al Hilal paid around $100 million to sign Neymar from PSG. They got 5 games out of him before he tore his ACL playing for Brazil in a World Cup qualifier.
Well, on the pitch, this season could be over already for Brazilian striker Neymar. The 31-year-old was taken off on a stretcher in tears during their 2-0 defeat.
Not even a World Cup game, a qualifying match. Al Hilal doesn't have a say in any of it. They couldn't stop the release, they couldn't stop the injury, and most importantly, they couldn't stop the checks from going out. That seems wildly unfair, right? You have to ask yourself, did anyone fight back? The answer starts in 2004, and it doesn't start with Real Madrid or Manchester United or any club you've probably ever heard of. It starts with Royal Charleroi. It's a Belgian club, it's small, it's not very famous unless you're a local. Their player was Abdelmajid Olmers. Mr. Olmers was called up by Morocco for an international friendly against Burkina Faso. Before that match, his club contacted FIFA. They said Olmers was injured and they wanted him to rest so he didn't get seriously hurt. FIFA said he's gotta play. And so he played. And of course, his injury got worse. So bad that he was sidelined for 7 months. All the while, his club had to keep paying his wages the entire time. FIFA's position was essentially, that's the club's problem, not ours. His club decided that they had had enough. They had to find a solution, and so they sued FIFA. And when they did, something unexpected happened. Europe's biggest clubs started paying attention. Because this wasn't a unique situation. This was the FIFA rule. It seemed unfair. Every club with international players had been quietly absorbing this cost for years. They were furious about it.
At some point, the club said, wait a minute, we are not developing our players for national teams, and these national teams taking advantage of their skill and their image. And at the same time, FIFA and UEFA, they're making billions out of these competitions, and we don't make anything. So the clubs wanted a piece of the pie.
That was Vasilis Fatou, a sports lawyer in Athens who spends his day inside these fights between clubs, players, and FIFA. The argument actually wasn't just about one midfielder's wages. The clubs argued that FIFA's mandatory release rules actually violated the EU's law of free movement of workers and competition. So the fate of European football hung in the balance. Soccer clubs united against FIFA.
FIFA didn't want to risk the mandatory release of players to be found breaching EU law, and they decided to make a deal.
That's right, FIFA blinked. After years of negotiation, FIFA and the clubs reached a settlement. FIFA committed to something that never existed before, a system to compensate clubs when released players get hurt on international duty. That deal became what's known as the Club Protection Program. Okay, so problem solved, right? The clubs won, story's over, but come on. You can see that there's some time left in this podcast, so you know it's going to get more complicated. So how much will FIFA actually pay? There's a hard ceiling per player per accident. And here's what that means in the real world.
FIFA may pay a compensation of up to 7.5 million euros per year, which is something above 20,500 euros per day. So, of course, for Messi's contract, this is nothing because he's getting paid much more than that. But for smaller clubs who don't have big contracts, I have to say it's a very substantial amount, and it covers all the salaries that the player receives during the period of his injury.
But that ceiling is only half of it. What the program actually covers is narrower than you'd think, because the details really matter here. It covers short-term disability only, not illness, not permanent injury, only cases where a player is temporarily unable to play because of an accident during international duty. Very specific. It kicks in after 28 days. For the first month, the club is responsible for all the costs. It covers fixed salary only, no bonuses, not the transfer fee, just the base wage. Let's see how that works in practice. Neymar's fixed salary at Al Hilal was around $95 million a year. The club protection program maxed out at $8.1 million. That only pays for 4 weeks and 3 days of Neymar's salary. And he was out for 12 months. That's the best case scenario. That's assuming the claim is filed perfectly, the 28-day threshold is cleared, no exclusions apply, no disputes, which we all know doesn't happen. The maximum payout under perfect conditions is 5 weeks on a 12-month injury. The club protection program is not a solution. It's a gesture. It's what FIFA could offer without admitting open-ended financial liability. The 28-day threshold, the wage-only basis, the cap, those are not accidents. They're the limits of what FIFA could accept. Both sides know it, neither loves it. So the clubs fought for years. They went to the European court, they threatened to tear down the entire system, and they got a safety net that covers just 5 weeks on a 12-month injury. There has to be something else, some other way that clubs can manage this kind of exposure. There is, and it's bigger and more complex than I expected. Alright, we're back at the World Cup final. Argentina versus France. When Messi grabs his hamstring, millions of fans are worried about the final score. But someone else is watching that moment just as closely, and it's not because of the scoreline. Because for them, that one injury just triggered 3 separate insurance claims at the same time. One for Messi himself. If that hamstring ends his career, his income is gone. And he's more exposed than you'd think, because for all the money in football, playing for your country barely pays at all.
The players are almost playing pro bono. They receive just a compensation for their time, so this is why compensation is important in these cases.
And we're talking about Messi. Translate this down to the individual players who are not as famous as Messi. A player risks his entire career every time he pulls on the national shirt for a fraction of what his club pays him, which is exactly why a player needs his own protection. The second claim comes from his sponsors. Adidas has invested millions into their spokespeople. There's a policy for that too. This is insurance. And the third policy is for his club. They're still paying his salary while he can't play. You guessed it, there's a policy for that too.
My name's Jim Rainford. I work for Miller Insurance in the sports and entertainment team here.
I call Jim Rainford, who insures the career of soccer stars for a living.
We provide a personal accident and illness cover, which is career-ending insurance. Clubs treat players like assets, essentially. It's basic asset management. They don't necessarily insure the player for their benefit. There isn't a cover there to benefit the individual.
3 claims, 3 payouts, all from that one moment where he got injured. You've probably seen these headlines, right? A star's legs insured for tens of millions of dollars, a foot insured for some jaw-dropping number. I looked into this. Back to Jim.
He is, of course, insured for his legs, but the reality is that he's insured for his whole body, and he's insured in that respect, whether he's actually playing football or not playing football. And the policy that we're providing is a 24-hour worldwide coverage.
It's not as dramatic as the headlines sound. The body part itself actually isn't insured. It's the income that depends on the player. That foot is a symbol. The policy covers the business of the player, the money that they're earning. But here's the crazy thing. Even with all these layers, the FIFA program, private club insurance, the player's own policy, clubs with the biggest stars still don't get made whole. The club protection program just covers 5 weeks from an injury. Private insurance fills some of the gap. The club team has to absorb the rest of the money. 3 systems, 3 payouts, and the club still eats the largest part of the loss. So, you would ask the question, why would any club sign a player like Messi or Ronaldo? Why take on that kind of exposure? Because the alternative, not having these big names, arguably costs a lot more. Big players bring in big money, they bring in fans who buy merchandise, they bring in huge sponsors, and they bring in very, very lucrative TV rights. That's the important part. Every time a player goes down, an entire hidden insurance system activates. Claims are filed, wording is checked, negotiations happen in the back rooms, and that 28-day clock starts running. The World Cup works because enough parties agree to absorb a piece of that uncertainty. Clubs release their players, FIFA agreed to pay something, underwriters covered the rest. Nobody got made whole, but the risk got distributed just enough that the whole thing holds itself together. Football or soccer or the beautiful game, whatever you want to call it, this game is made possible by a hidden system of insurance. I'm Amrish Singh. This is Everything is Insurance.